to leave for France. I can't believe I'm going to walk the Camino. On a map, it looks a long way, and indeed it is. So I decided I'd go by train, not to fly. I took the Eurostar, and that took me to Paris, to Gare du Nord. And from there I went on to Bayonne, which is just a short coach ride to Pierre-de-Port. I missed the train. And there I got my pilgrim passport stamped, and afterwards got Mass, and followed by the pilgrim blessing. Then I found the spot where I'd begin tomorrow. The star or shell would lead me to Santiago de Compostella. Santiago means St. James in English, of course, and Compostella comprises of two words, campo meaning field and stella star. And it was in a field that they found the body of St. James, guided by a star. So here we go. I'm ready, been preparing for this, and a journey of 800 kilometers begins with one step. You see a statue of Our Lady looking over us as we cross the bridge. Now at first it's all very flat and easy walking, but quickly we start to climb and climb and climb. You get a nice view, of course. There's this encouraging message, keep going. And then when we get towards the top, it's fabulous, the view you get. We were blessed to have a nice day. Others aren't so lucky. Lots of sheep, beautiful views. Some, don't know if it's lost, but it's on its own. And these horses, beautiful sight. And there's Our Lady of Horizon at the highest peak, about 1,500 meters up. The sky is looking rather ominous, but we were lucky it didn't rain. And we pass quickly into Spain, no borders, no frontiers. And then it's downhill all the way. Quite dangerous, some people fall. And eventually we come to the monastery, get something to eat and get a good night's sleep with 400 others. I'm up at 6 and on the road at 6:30. And it's really quite dark, as you can see. 790 kilometers, a long way to Santiago. And so it's raining now, and but it didn't last long. I'm following a young lady from Taiwan. Her name is T. This is easy walking compared to yesterday. These lovely paths through the woods. But then we do climb to the high point where we find these lovely cows. Then after that we descend into the town of Zubiri, and when you descend you're more likely to have an accident than when you are climbing up. I stop for a drink, and there's a little cat to keep me company. I meet up with two English girls, Anita and Shona, whom I'd met on the first day. They They walk faster than I do. I was up early and I met Anita and Shona once again. And here's the lovely star that keeps us on track. I love the wildflowers in this area. Sadly, people die on the Camino too. Rosanna from Verona, may she rest in peace. Got to Pamplona in good time. For some reason or other, I didn't take that many photos in Pamplona, but here are some. I was intrigued by these two ladies that they drinking tea, playing chess. Monumental city. There were some funny bits. Let's see how they love us, pilgrims. Now, you must indulge me. I was just intrigued by this green man at the pedestrian crossing. See him walking like that. Now, later on, when it gets down to about 7 seconds, he will start running. Now, no little things, please, little minds. But I was just not fascinated by this, but I just thought it was so funny. I hope you'll agree with me. Watch him now. Snoring was bad last night, and everybody was up early at 5:30, so I got up too. Walking out to Pamplona in the dark. It's cold, but I like walking in the dark. Time to yourself and to reflect. And at breakfast, just outside Pamplona, saw these beautiful skies. There's vapors in the sky. And I fell for the first time, and only time, thank God, and I grazed my knee. Met this nice Korean lady. It's interesting, there's so many Koreans who walk the Camino. And later I met Arnold and his lovely wife, and we will become good friends. And then at the top, we come to the iconic metal pilgrims. You see them everywhere. And then it's making our way down. Just look at this view that you get from the top of the hill, and you can see just how far you have to walk. Miles, just miles. And this is the Mount of Pardon. I met Chris here from Canada, and we stopped here for something to drink, something to drink, for water. It's so lovely, refreshing water after the heat of the day. And then met up with Roxy and Lisa, and the four of us decided we would go to take a detour to Unate Church, which is a 12th century church, and it's considered one of the jewels of the Camino, so certainly worth a detour. There it is, you see it there. It's 8 sides, you'll see them in a minute. The 8 sides are modelled on the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. You can see why people will go out their way to this place, and why it is considered one of the jewels of the Camino. Then we made our way to our next stop, which was Puente de la Reina, where we would spend the night. I'm up early and it's still dark as I walk through the town of Puente la Reina, and outside the town it's really dark and you need your lights on your head to see where you're going. As I said before, I like walking in the dark, and then the dawn comes. You have these sometimes beautiful skies. These amazing vapors in the sky. And I met in Maneru, this town, I met Chris, who's from Australia, who was walking with his wife, Pippa, and we managed to walk together, walked 8 kilometers before having breakfast. That's over 2 hours. Stopped at a place called Siraqui, a marvelous medieval hilltop village which you can see in the distance. And there, after breakfast, I met Jamie. Now, Jamie and I, that's Jamie there on the left, she doesn't realise it yet, but she's lost her walking poles. Oh, she's lost them, she's left them behind. She'll kill me for this. Now she remembers. It's something we all do, we all forget something or other. I'm one to talk. So then we carried on and we walked down this amazing Roman road. That's a Roman road. That is 2,000 years old, this road that the people are walking on, we're walking on. And then nice refreshing water. Today I walked a lot on my own because on this day our Queen was buried, and so I wanted to be on my own, and I listened to the burial service on my headphones. And then eventually we make our way into Estrella, which is a nice little town. Estrella, yes. So there was a marvellous, friendly Irish volunteer there in the parochial hostel where I was staying. I met up with a few friends here, including Anna, the Reverend Anna from Germany. I met somebody called Jolly and Liam, who were running part of the way from along the Camino. It's an impressive town, Australia, as you can see. Up at 5:45, went to the famous Fuente del Vino, and this here is the monastery of Iraque, a community of monks who served pilgrims here since the 10th century. Today I walked again a lot on my own. It's good to walk on your own sometimes. You can think and reflect, which is part of the reason why one goes on the Camino, to have time to yourself, time to think. And then we arrived at the famous town of Los Arcos. Here we see a group arriving there. Here I met Sophia and Patricia, 2 Brazilian doctors who were a lot of fun. Poor Sophia was struggling with her feet at the time. Then we have the 12th century church of Santa Maria of Los Arcos. Very impressive church. Customary statue of St. James. I have a long day today, so I got up early at 5:30. Saw the village of San Sol in the dark. We have these beautiful sunrises on the Camino. Then we walked through lovely woods. I met Jamie again this morning from the USA. Got to know her better. And then later at breakfast, I met Chris, also from the USA. And saw these lovely wildflowers you see everywhere. And then the sad crosses of where somebody has died. We walked through the famous wine region of La Rioja. We drink a lot of Rioja in England. And then I carried on walking to Logroño, the next big town, on my own. When we got there, and there's the bull, just in case you didn't know you were in Spain. Yeah, there's Logroño in the distance. And I'd never was going to stay there. I'd made up my mind that I was going to carry on past Logroño. Also because the wine festival there, I mean, it's beautiful. And I love that, but it wasn't for me because I was on pilgrimage, so I decided to walk through Logroño, skip the festivities. And then on the other side of Logroño, I met Daniela, and we walked together to Navarrete. I didn't take any photos, probably because I was too tired, except for this red squirrel on the way to Navarrete. I walked 40 kilometers yesterday, so I gave myself a lie-in this morning. It also meant a short walk now today to Nájera. In fact, today was my shortest walk of the Camino. You still get the encouragement, the buen camino. And here we have the wine-growing country again, Rioja. Beautiful vines, you get very close to them. It's quite a dry district where you see lots of stones like this. And always that yellow arrow pointing the way forward. Beautiful then when you come across water. I love the way the sun shines off the water. This cross is on the outskirts of Nájera, and the stork builds a nest on the top of churches. Nájera used to be the capital of Navarre in the 11th and 12th centuries, and in the monastery you have the tombs of many kings and queens and knights of Navarre. It's quite, not quite, it's a very impressive place to visit, this monastery of Santa Maria de Real. Left at 6 this morning. See these lovely modern images of St. James along the way, Santiago. I love the brown. This is autumn, so we have these autumnal colours. I met some nice people today. I met Patricia again from Brazil, one of the doctors. She told me that she runs marathons all over the world. She was a fast walker, too fast for me, so I let her go. I also met up with an American, Steve, who's a good sportsman, very easygoing. The Camino is a great place for meeting people and getting to know them, talking to them. Then eventually arrived at Santo Domingo. Arrived there about 12 o'clock, midday. I really love Santo Domingo, one of my favourite places. Not least because here I met again Anne from Germany and a lovely Filipino group with George and Anna and Ivy and Butch. Lovely people, lovely memories. On the road again. I didn't sleep well last night. There was a young lady in the bed beside me who snored a lot. Women can be as bad as men. I met Steve on the way, an ex-military from America. I met an interesting lady, Mariana, from Siberia, Russia, now living in Norway. And then I met Lisa from the USA, and we walked together, and before we knew it, we were in Belorado, this lovely small town. Didn't take many photos of Belorado. I had supper that evening with Anne and Daniela and Janice from the USA. Janice was amazing because she wasn't finding it easy to walk, but she kept going. She got up very early so as to be with us. I managed to lose my glasses this morning. Don't ask me how. I just did prescription glasses as well. Felt bad all day long. But there we are. You carry on, and I did, and I came to this monument to the fallen of the Spanish Civil War, and then another cross to somebody who died on the Camino. Eventually we arrived at our destination, the monastery of Saint Jean de Ortega. I met some lovely people there, including Dr. Joshua from the United Kingdom and Ashton from Australia. I wasn't impressed with the hospitality, with the food in particular. It was cold, there was no wine, it was just water. Felt we were ripped off, actually. I didn't sleep well last night. There was lots of snoring. I left at 6 o'clock and arrived at 8:15 at this marvellous cross place called Atapuerca, which is 1,000 meters up. Later I met Brendan from Australia and then Laura, originally from Mexico, and she joined me as we walked together into Burgos. Managed to stay in the 5-story municipal albergue next to the cathedral. This is very clean, modern and comfortable. And there I met an American with shin splints. He'd been in bed 3 days, and I listened to his story and I thought, you know, I should take a break. So I did. I took a day off, decided to have a rest day, and then I could explore Burgos Cathedral tomorrow. It felt strange this morning, getting up with nowhere to go. I did feel a bit down, like this fella in the photo, as most of the friends I'd made till now would be a day ahead of me. However, few decided to stay. So instead, I spent most of the morning in the famous cathedral with Roxy. It's a beautiful place, World Heritage. Then I took a stroll down the river, watched people walking their dogs, beautiful water, the sun shining off the water. Watch the ducks playing. Everybody loves water. Beautiful flowers. Whoosh, yes. I said goodbye to Burgos, made my way out of the town, following these yellow arrows. It's not always easy to get out of these towns, the big towns, but the arrows help. Sometimes they're not always easy to see, but you couldn't miss that one. And, pass through some lovely villages. I love the stone here. After Burgos, you come to this famous Meseta region, which is, apart from a few hills, it's quite flat, featureless, very dry, and some people skip it. They don't like the idea of walking on the flat and featureless places, so they get a bus or a train and go on to Leon, I suppose. But it's a very special place, and it's very much part of the Camino experience. And then we came into Hornillos, this small, quaint town. I stayed in the municipal albergue. It was very nice. I did enjoy it. I left the hostel at 6:30. It's dark and cold. Then it is the 29th of September. It warms up when the sun rises. Then we came to this lovely town with a 14th century parish church, Hontanas. Delightful place, really. Went into the church to have a look, say a prayer. Always the arrows guiding us. And then further on, we're approaching Castro Jerez, but before we get there, we come to these ruins a 14th century monastery. We pass under something called St. Anthony's Arch. These are marvellous ruins. I really like this place. Cats. And then on a short distance away is Castro Jerez. On this road I met Lucia from Peru, who now lives in Rome, and then her friend Paz, a lovely Spanish lady who now lives in Paris. So arrived in Castro Jerez at 12:30. Not many people here, we noticed. There's more sparrows than people. And it began to rain too when I arrived. I met up with my Australian friend Brendan again for lunch. Stayed in the municipal hostel, and here you see Paco outside the hostel with a friendly cat. And then a friendly dog trying to get in, probably smells something inside. I slept well last night, up early as usual. I shared a room with Johnny and Tracy, brother and sister from the States. I first met them some time ago. And here I am walking through the Meseta. It's a wonderful experience. It's quite easy walking. This is a familiar sight, anybody who walks the Camino, to have their shadow in front of them and hear the crunch, crunch, crunch of their feet on the ground. So I'm really enjoying this. Now this is something, look at this kitten or cat on the right of these two ladies going out. It's following them all the way. Yeah, I just thought that was funny. Yeah, and then we come to this beautiful canal. This canal will lead us all the way into Fromista. It's quite lovely. Beautiful water. We walk along the side of that canal. And it's Brendan, my Australian friend, having a break. And this is the lock just at Fromista. It's quite a lot of water here. And we see the various levels of the lock. See this hut shortly before we get into Fromista. And there we have this incredible church. It's 11th century and it's one of the finest examples of pure Romanesque in Spain. And there's coach parties coming to see this magnificent building. Today is the 1st of October and the Feast of St. Therese, an important day for us Catholics. Walked on my own most of the morning and enjoyed that too. Look at the beautiful sunrises and that marvelous vapor, the cross in the sky. There's myself, Daniela, and a Korean girl checking something. Popped into the hermitage of the Lady of the River. There's a typical Meseta scene there. Then we came across this marvellous national monument, this 13th century church dedicated to Our Lady of the Virgin. It's welcomed pilgrims here, you can imagine, for how many centuries. Went inside. It's always good to go in the church and say a prayer. One of my criticisms of the Camino is that too many of the churches were closed. Then after the visit to the church, we all gather and have lunch together. It's time to catch up, time to meet friends again, time to check your feet for blisters or tendinitis, all these problems that you can get. I came across this marvellous scene in stone as I left Carrion. Pilgrim like myself, wanting a blessing at the beginning of the day. And then later on in the morning, just as the light's coming in, I loved the effect of the light on that water. We carried on the yellow arrow. It'll always guide us. You never get lost if you follow that yellow arrow. And then there's the shell. That's also a guide along the way. These two cats or kittens there. There's lots of animals around. And there's this starling on a wire. Beautiful scene of a farmhouse in Meseta. Then we arrived at the albergue at Terradillos, and here I met up with lots of friends. Also Suzanne from South Africa and Frank from the Netherlands. I met Harry and Orlit for the first time. We were to become good friends. I had a long walk today, 27 kilometers. It's still cold. I walked a lot on my own. It's flat, it's featureless. Always the arrows there to guide you. And when you get to this bridge, you know you're near Sahagun. And when you get to Sahagun, you're at the halfway stage of the Camino. And enter then into the town of Sahagun, which is easy to get lost in. I managed to, in spite of these arrows. Then we walked outside and we heard this train long before we saw it. You actually have to cross the tracks. Could be dangerous. Then it took this Roman road, this marvellous road that led us all the way to Calzadilla. As you can see, it's typical Meseta, flat, featureless, but it's very special part of the Camino. Easy walking, of course, it's so flat. And there's our star, once again guiding us to our destination. And then we got to Calzadilla. I met up there with Johnny and Tracy. Paco was also there. He cooked supper for us. And met a lovely lady called Asta from Lithuania. Back on the trail again, this marvellous Roman road. Here's Johnny. We became great buddies. She's a great walker, Johnny. Walking along this fantastic flat Roman road. See how dry it is? The Mains is so dry now. And then sadly another cross, somebody died. That was in the middle of nowhere. And then eventually we get a place where we have a break. And then walk into these woods. It's such a change after the open spaces. Arriving then at Mansilla. It's nice to be there. I shared a place with Johnny and her brother Tracy and little John from Stockport and John from Manchester. And Jamie was in the bunk underneath me. So a great meeting of the clans. And there he is, St. James, looking after us. Lots of movement this morning at 5:30, so I decided to get up as well. If you can't beat them, then join them. So I didn't take many photos till I got to Leon, except this silly one, and then this shot of a video of a donkey, which always look a bit sad, don't they? But then the road into Leon was long and it was boring. It helped I met Asta on the way in, so that was nice. And here we have Leon Cathedral. It looks impressive on the outside, but it was only when I got inside that I had that wow effect. Have you heard, people speak about a wow effect when you go into an impressive building? But when I went into the cathedral and I just saw those stained glass windows, which you will see in a moment, I just went, wow. I'm on the outskirts of Leon having a break. It took ages to get out of Leon. The man on the right has set up this cafe, impromptu cafe really, and he just asks you for a donation. He's very keen to know where you're from, and here's a map and you can put an arrow where you're from. Then we came to this church of the Virgin of the Camino, but it was closed. So annoyed. Look at this beautiful colour. Love the soil here. And it's also, you'll see in the next photo, it reflects in the colour of the building. I met Norma here from Piemonte, and I was delighted to be able to speak Italian with her. Then now in this video you see Orlet and Harry is in front of her. I've got to know them, and the more I get to know them, the more I like them. And then we got to Mazarife, where I stayed the night. Here I met Dave and Leslie, an English couple. It's a nice, quiet place to be. There he is, once again. This is inside the church there. Saw this magnificent lion as I left Mazarife. I had a long 30-kilometer hike today. The first part was 5 kilometers along a straight road, flat, and then kink left, then right, another 5 kilometers. Nowhere to stop, nowhere to eat. Eventually I got to this town, Villavante, but nowhere to eat. I did meet Dennis, who'd walked all the way from Normandy. Then we came to Hospital. Oh, what a beautiful, impressive bridge. It's the longest and best preserved medieval bridge in Spain. And it was here that I got somewhere to eat. That's the view from where I was eating. I was hungry. You wonder, where's the river? Oh, there it is. It's lovely. The lichen on the water. I love the nature here. Look at those fields. It's barren, but every season has its beauty, including autumn. We are guided by the stars still. Then got to the Astorga, very close to Astorga, on this marvellous hill overlooking Astorga. And I had some bread and some cheese and some grapes which I saved from the day before, and I sat down and I ate those, and I felt like a real pilgrim. Pilgrims of old who didn't have the luxuries we have. Yeah, I was thirsty like this man. Then walked into Astorga, and one of the things I'd noticed is in these marvellous old cities, the church or the cathedral is in the centre and it's the biggest building. Whereas in modern cities, the church is in the periphery and in the centre are the banks. I'm just thinking how sad that is, that God has been pushed to the periphery. Astorga, this beautiful Gaudi building. For some reason or other, I never took a photo of the cathedral. This is the municipal building. Impressive, and these pieces are going to come together and hit that bell at some stage. And this is where I went to church and got my blessing in the evening. Nice morning, and I had a good night's sleep, ready for the day ahead. Astorga is a great place for meeting people and catching up, and Arnold and Cheryl and Anne and Peter. Continued walking then through these lovely towns. I remember meeting Jorge, spending good time, quality time with Jorge. And as we walked through these places, I was admiring the stonework. It's a bit tumbled down, but there's something beautiful as well. We're certainly not going to get lost for lack of direction in this place, I tell you. Then we see this lovely sight. That's father and daughter. They're from Mexico. Come all the way from Mexico to walk the Camino. She's only 7. Isn't that lovely? Always the lovely flowers. And we have plenty of crosses along the way and more arrows. It was around here that I met Claudio, a lovely gentle soul from North Italy. These crosses, there are thousands of those crosses along that fence, every one representing a prayer. And here's Karina. Karina's from Germany, and we walked for at least 2, if not 3 hours together. Put the worlds to right. What a lovely person she was. Only 19, and a lovely soul. I'm just sorry we never met up again. So we approached Rabanal. It's up a hill. It's like a ghost town. You know, some of these towns are. But there's always something beautiful in them, like these old walls. and this was near to the place where I was staying, and this is outside where I was staying. It was run by an English link to the St. James's Society, so it was very nice, very comfortable, clean. Afternoon tea at 4. Here is where we stayed. Typical bunk beds. If you're finishing a long day's walk, the last thing you want to be is on the top bunk bed. But yeah, this is where you meet people and you bond with them. You know, there's problems with snoring and big bugs, but that's part of the pilgrimage. It's part of the package. Here's the 12th century chapel run by a few Benedictine monks opposite where I was staying. Very nice, and people came there for evening prayer, for Vespers in the evening. It's so peaceful in the morning, it's so quiet. You've got the world to yourself. Time to pray, time to reflect. And gradually the sun comes up and you can see what's ahead of us. You can see in the distance that thin pole. That's the Cruz de Ferro, which is one of the most iconic places on the whole of the Camino. And there's Claudia I met yesterday, saying a prayer there. I found that very touching. And so we leave Cruz de Ferro and we head downhill, and this is a dangerous going downhill. It's where people fall, and one of our friends, John, fell, broke his nose. I managed to lose my second pair of glasses today. I had a spare pair and I lost the spare pair today. And I did feel bad about that. Yes, I felt bad about losing the first pair. I felt really bad about losing the second pair. But what can you do? Love these villages, the flowers, and these wooden balconies. Cheryl and Arnie from South Africa. St. James keeping an eye on us. And this is the way. And then eventually we come to Molina Seca. It's been a long walk today. Hard walk, especially that downhill section. Nice town, Molina Seca. I stayed in a hostel together with Arnold and Shirley and Eleanor from Scotland. Been a difficult day. Felt disappointed about the glasses. It's a long, tiring walk. But there we are. It's all part of the Camino. These horses near my hostel cheered me up a bit. Day 27, just 8 more days to go, not long. Beautiful stream. I love the light on the water. So we're going to Ponferrada and needed to buy some glasses, and when I went into the shop to buy some cheap glasses, I discovered I'd lost my credit card. I kid you not. So not a good start to the day. Fortunately, I had another credit card. Beautiful Knights Templar castle there, Ponferrado. These arrows, a series of marvellous arrows here pointing the way. I like this one, it's got all of them, the star, the shell and the arrow. This church and climbing the hill. Beautiful walk through vineyards before we got to Villafranca. That's beautiful. Here we are. I stayed in this marvellous monastery, and by now I'd almost come to terms with losing my 2 pairs of glasses, my credit card, torch, pen. It was dark when I left Villafranca, and in the dark I met up with Peter from Ireland. He lived in Spain for a long time. He taught me actually how to order a beer in Spanish. In case you want to know, it's una caña. The walk today was quite flat, first of all, but then the last 15 kilometers we were going to climb uphill, unrelenting climb uphill. There's a sight you don't see much in England now these days. Here we have, I didn't actually ask them what nationality they were, but I think they might have been Chinese. But it's marvellous how on the Camino you get people from every nation. Very cool, refreshing stream now before we started to climb up. People speak about O Sobrero in hushed tones, you know, and when you climb it, you know why. It is so hard, unrelenting, uphill. It really is challenging. And then we had these ominous clouds, but we were lucky it didn't rain. Now we're passing into Galicia, so we're leaving Castile, moving into Galicia with this very colourful signpost here. And this is now where the view you're getting towards the top. And there we are. Here we have O Sobrero. Wonderful old town. These marvellous stone buildings. Been there for centuries. And there's the church. It dates back to the 9th century. It's one of the oldest in Spain. Now this is interesting. This man he's a priest, Don Elias Balina San Pedro, died in 1989, and he was responsible for the yellow arrows. We have to thank him. This is inside the church. For me, it's probably the most atmospheric church. And here, this is, I think, after our Mass, and we're about to get a blessing. I think when I got to O Sobrero, and I felt I'd finished, somehow psychologically I'd finished. And here we have an unusual sight, because this is a sunset. We see many sunrises. This is a beautiful sunset. About an hour outside of O Sobrero, came across this very impressive statue of St. Roch, 1,200 meters up. It's 14th century saint, patron saint of dogs. Then we continued down. I met Eleanor from Edinburgh, and we walked down the rest of the way together. I remember sitting having coffee with her, watching these lovely cows pass by. I'd actually decided to get up later. Roxy was always pointing out to me, why do you get up so early? It's always dark. And it's true, so I took her advice and started to get up later. Again, this is a scene you don't see much today, certainly in England. And what about this magnificent oak tree? Hundreds of years old. If only it could speak. How many millions of pilgrims have passed by. Arrived at Compostella, had lunch with Jamie, Sue, Eric and Paul, all of them from the USA. And after Mass, I had a beer with Irish Peter and Kelly from the USA, and then Dave and Leslie joined us. So now I'm getting up or leaving rather, at 7:30, and yet it's still dark. Here I am at the outskirts of Compostella. I met a lovely group of Koreans, some of whom I'd got to know. A nice early morning walk. I was joined by Dave and Leslie. Poor Leslie was struggling. One of the advantages of walking rather than, say, cycling is you spot things like this. You can stop and look. How wonderful. Can't really do that if you're hurtling past in a car or on a bicycle. You see cute little scenes like this. Always lovely flowers. So I arrived in Sarria about 1 o'clock, and my hostel, which was a 13th century monastery, was right at the other end of town at the top of a long hill. Just the sort of thing I didn't want at the end of a tiring day. There's Sarria in the distance. And needless to say, my room was on the second floor. Couldn't be on the first floor or ground floor. No, second floor, and no lift. I remember during the night one of the pilgrims had a nightmare. I really felt sorry for him. A lovely rural scene. Earlier on it had been raining, and I put on my wet gear for only the second time in the whole of the trip. Look at these dogs. See, this one here has got the Camino shell around his neck. Spot small things on the way. Mushrooms, flowers, and walls like this. Amazing. Beautiful views over valleys, and another wonderful wall, and then you have different scenes like this. Wood. There's always variety. Crosses with their stones, each one a prayer. Here's Peter from Ireland, my friend Peter, who taught me how to order a beer, as the Spanish would. Coming into these marvellous villages. Whoever wrote these yellow arrows, I don't know what they were on, but there's an awful lot of them. This is the close to tackiness I came. And here we have people that I really got to know. Johnny and Tracy from the States, and Peter from Ireland. It's wonderful on the Camino. You share all this time together, and you really get to know people, and you really bond. You know, when you finish in the square, it's quite an emotional time. In the background you can see Porto Marin, where we're going. There is the river, We crossed a long bridge, and then, at the end of a long walk, the last thing you need are these steps. But there we are, and then another trek upwards. At the top we have this, one of my favourite crosses. Something about this that touched me. And the church in the centre of Portamarin. Went there for evening mass. And there's their St. James looking after us. I met up with Jamie and Sue and Chris for lunch. Jamie calls me the mayor of the Camino because I know so many people. I like that. These are some of my favourite yellow arrows. The places that they're put in is, but the next, look at the next. That's my favourite. That's on Jamie's big toe. It's still dark, 7:30. As we walk out to Portamarin, you need your torches. But the dawn, when it comes, is worth waiting for. When more light comes, we see a bit more in the dried up cornfields. There's a peculiar and different kind of building and farms in Galicia. And then I had breakfast eventually, and these lovely Korean ladies, for some reason or other, they brought my breakfast for me. You know, it was great to get to know them. I'm so grateful. Now we're just 78 kilometers away, and the signs are clear. The yellow arrows, and this one is the star again, all pointing us towards Santiago. I remember these two young ladies who were part of a larger group of young people from Spain. I think they were from the south. Nice gentle walk. And here we have once again St. James. I stayed in a guest house, shared a room with one other lady, a farmer from Canada, and that evening a Mexican priest celebrated Mass. It was very special. He sang and he played a guitar. Wonderful. Once again, a statue of St. James keeping an eye on us, and the arrow. Can't get lost. I must admit I had a sat-nav, a ninja sat-nav, which I had to use occasionally. We came into the big city of Melide, and I met Paz, the lovely Paz and Lucia there. An interesting place. They love octopus in this part of the world, or pulpo as they call it. Every other restaurant is serving pulpo. I walked a lot today with Gemma, a lovely Korean lady now living in the States. It was wonderful to get to know her and to get to know about the Korean people. Eventually we got to Ribadiso, small friendly place where I met up in my hostel with Arnold and Cheryl and little John. I walked on my own in the quiet of the morning. Now we just have 36 kilometers to go. And many of us said, we don't want this to end. As you can see, it was quite wet, but we avoided the rain. In fact, my whole Camino. We were so lucky to avoid most of the rain. Now here's the thing, after Sarria, the number of pilgrims grows considerably, and I'm fighting a temptation to be critical almost of those who just started. You know, there's a kind of Camino snobbery. No, I started right at the beginning 800 kilometers ago. So I wasn't the only one who felt like that. Now here's Jürgen. Jürgen has walked all the way from northern Germany. He's walked twice the distance. He's retired, and when I asked him, Jürgen, why are you doing this? He said, I just wanted to celebrate the fact that I could. Here's Harry again. Orlit will be behind him. As I said, the more I got to know Harry and Orlit, the more I got to like them, respect them. They are special people. Beautiful vegetation in this area. Lush and green because there's so much rain in Galicia. It's a bit like England in its weather. Always the encouraging words on the road. And here, this is where we celebrated Mass. This was my last Mass on the Camino, on the way. It was very special. I'm really looking forward to arriving in Santiago tomorrow. And so the last morning, beautiful sunrise. We had a lovely morning walk into Santiago. Always something to see. This pillar tells us we've 13 kilometers to go. That's all. We'd walked 800, almost 800 kilometers. And we walked through these eucalyptus trees around the airport, spotted these two lovely horses. It's always something to see on the Camino like this. And our beautiful yellow arrows guiding us home to Santiago. Not long now. It had been wet, but we'd avoided the rain. Very good, this rain for mushrooms. There's Juan Gisbert Marco, who died only in 2020. It says he's a amigo verdadero, a true friend. May he rest in peace. So now we're on our way to the hill of Joy, Monte de Gozo, from where you get this marvellous view over Santiago. We're still about 2 miles away from the centre, so you can just about see in the distance the spires of the cathedral. It will pan in a bit more, so they'll be more obvious. My camera's a bit shaky. It's the camera, of course, not me. There we are. And so, down the hill, down this path, keep going down this modern new pathway, takes us to the bridge over the busy motorway. We haven't seen much of that on our way. And then into modern suburban Santiago. There I am, striding along. One of the churches in Santiago closed. It's It's one of my criticisms, as I've mentioned before, that churches were closed. And even the bus is telling us which way to go. These pilgrims. I was feeling quite fresh, really. I was very pleased. I wasn't tired after all the walk. Right now I was excited, and I was particularly excited about meeting the people I'd walked with and just being together with them and sharing stories. And here we have the final stars. 1, 2, there'll be another one on the way, and then the next one. That's it. I'm in the center of the square. I have made it. I've walked 800 kilometers. Yes, well done. Well done. Yeah, I'm so happy. I'm happy for all sorts of reasons. To be in the place where the great James was buried, to have met some wonderful people and to share these moments. You can see how emotional it is for people finishing. Of course, for some, they're just exhausted. And here's some of my friends who I walked with. There's a nice picture of Daniela. And then what happened? We'd avoided the rain, and now it started to rain, and it rained and rained and rained. It didn't stop then for the rest of the day. Look at it. But it didn't dampen our spirits. It was quite wonderful. Yeah, we were happy. And look at these people, these young people. They've taken their shoes off and they don't care. They're just dancing with joy. That's what the Camino does to you. It gives you a tremendous joy. Yeah. Wonderful. And now the serious part. To go into the famous cathedral to pay my respects to St. James. It is a magnificent cathedral. I had the privilege of saying Mass. There's always Mass at 12 o'clock for the pilgrims, and I told my friends that there'll only be a few priests there. I was wrong. No, because the Cardinal of Venezuela was there with about 10 bishops and 30 or 40 priests. So I was lost amongst all these bishops and priests. So now after the Mass, I went down to the tomb of St. James, as this sign tells us. And I'd walked 800 kilometers to get here, so it's obviously a very important visit. Just wanted to say thank you to him, thank you for his life, for his example. I wanted to pray for all the people I had met on the Camino, including Dennis there on the left. To give thanks, just to thank him for so many things. It has been a truly wonderful experience.